Tonight, America is mourning. We didn't just lose a star, we lost a legend, a piece of history.
The news arrived quietly, almost like a whisper across the theater world. Mary Beth Hurt had passed away, leaving behind a silence that felt deeper than words. For many, the question came gently but persistently: how does someone so understated leave such a lasting mark? And why did her performances feel so personal even years later? In dimly lit stages and carefully framed film scenes, she was never the loudest presence. Yet somehow she was always the one you remembered. There was a stillness in her work, a kind of emotional honesty that didn't demand attention, but earned it. Audiences often found themselves leaning in not out of spectacle but out of quiet connection. Born with a natural sensitivity, Hurt seemed to understand people in a way that went beyond scripts. Early in her career, those close to her noticed something different. She didn't just play characters, she listened to them. That subtle difference became her signature, though she rarely spoke about it herself. Her journey through theater was where that gift truly began to take shape. On stage there were no second takes, no edits, only presence. And she carried that presence with grace. A fellow actor once reflected, she didn't need to raise her voice. You felt her in the room the moment she stepped on stage. It was a quiet kind of power, one that stayed with audiences long after the curtain fell. As her career expanded into film, that same emotional depth followed. She moved between roles with a calm confidence, never chasing fame, never forcing attention. Instead, she allowed each performance to breathe. And in doing so, she gave viewers something rare, a sense of truth. But behind that calm exterior, there were questions that lingered. What drove her to choose such deeply human roles? And how did she manage to make even the smallest moments feel so real? Those who worked with her often pointed to her patience. She observed more than she spoke. She understood more than she explained. One director shared a quiet memory from a film set. There was a scene with almost no dialogue, he said. Most actors would ask for more lines. He didn't. She just paused, and in that pause she told the whole story. It was in those moments that her artistry revealed itself most clearly, not in what was said but in what was felt. Her work earned her recognition, including 3 Tony Award nominations. But even those honors seemed secondary to the impact she had on people. She wasn't chasing awards. She was building something more lasting, an emotional bridge between story and audience. As news of her passing spread, tributes began to appear. Some came from fellow actors, others from viewers who had never met her but felt they knew her through her roles. One message simply read, "She made quiet moments matter." Another said, "She reminded us that strength doesn't have to be loud." There was something deeply human in the way she approached her craft. She didn't try to impress, she tried to understand. And in doing so, she reflected parts of life that often go unnoticed. Small emotions, unspoken thoughts, the fragile spaces between words. In a world that often celebrates volume and visibility, Mary Beth Hurt chose a different path. She chose subtlety. She chose truth. And over time, that choice became her legacy. As the days pass, her performances remain soft, steady, and deeply felt. Scenes that once seemed simple now carry new weight. Lines once heard now echo a little longer. It's a reminder that some voices don't fade. They linger quietly, shaping the way we see and feel. And perhaps that is the final question she leaves behind. What does it mean to truly be seen? Through her work, she offered an answer without ever saying it directly. It lives in her performances, in her silence, in her stillness. Her story does not end with her passing. It continues in every moment she brought to life, in every character she shaped with care. And as the curtain falls, it does so gently, leaving behind not noise but something far more lasting. A quiet truth. The news came with a mix of disbelief and quiet reflection. James Tolkan, the actor whose very presence could command a room, had passed away. For decades, his face and voice had become synonymous with authority, discipline, and unwavering intensity. But how did one man leave such an indelible mark on generations of viewers? And why did his characters feel so enduringly real? Tolkan's career was defined by that unmistakable presence, A combination of stern gaze, clipped voice, and a sense that every word he spoke carried weight. Audiences first noticed it in the early days of his work, when supporting roles revealed a talent for turning even brief appearances into unforgettable moments. Directors often said he brought more than acting. He brought a force of nature that reshaped every scene he touched. On the set of Back to the Future, where he played the unyielding Mr. Strickland, Tolkan became more than a character. He became a symbol. Generations of viewers recognized him instantly. The disciplinarian, the voice of rules, the figure whose intensity was equal parts fear and respect. But behind the stern exterior, colleagues remembered a man of quiet generosity and subtle humor. One co-star reflected, "He could be terrifying on screen, but off-camera he was thoughtful, kind, and always present." This duality defined Tolkan's artistry. He understood tension, knew how to make audiences feel it, and could convey authority without overstatement. A simple glance, a raised eyebrow, or a firm word was enough to shape a scene. His performances didn't scream for attention. They earned it, lingering in the mind long after the film ended. Tolkan's presence extended far beyond one role or one film. Over the decades, he portrayed figures of authority in ways that felt authentic, never caricatured. From military officers to strict teachers, from commanding executives to rigid lawmen, each performance carried a sense of lived experience. And in each, he left traces of humanity beneath the exterior. Viewers could sense discipline and rigor, yes, but also a hint of vulnerability, a subtle reminder that even the strictest figures are human. Fans often shared how Tolkan's performances shaped their memories of youth and discipline. One social media tribute read, "Mr. Strickland terrified me as a kid, but looking back I realize he also taught me respect." Another noted, "His characters were tough but he made them real. You could feel the weight of responsibility in every scene." These reflections reveal a rare quality. Tolkan's work resonated far beyond entertainment, becoming part of personal histories and shared cultural memory. His approach to acting was meticulous. Colleagues recalled his preparation. Hours spent studying lines, gestures, and the subtle ways authority manifests in behavior. Tolkan didn't rely on theatrics. He relied on precision. Every pause, every inflection, every movement was deliberate. That discipline allowed him to elevate supporting roles into something lasting, a testament to his dedication and understanding of craft. Even in quieter, less intense roles, Tolkan's presence carried a signature gravity. A casting director once said, "If you wanted a role that needed weight, James was the first name you called." He made the audience believe in the world you were building. It was a rare gift, one that shaped the way character actors are remembered today. Tributes poured in from colleagues, fans, and admirers. One filmmaker wrote, "James had the authority to fill a room without stepping on anyone else's performance. That's the mark of a true artist." Another remembered, "He taught me that presence is everything. Not through volume but through authenticity." In a profession that often rewards spectacle, Tolkan reminded everyone of the enduring power of subtle mastery. Yet beyond the accolades and recognition, there was a personal side rarely seen on screen. He valued loyalty, friendship, and quiet moments with family. Those who knew him offset described him as thoughtful, measured, and deeply committed to his craft, carrying the same intensity into life that he did into every scene. As the decades pass, his roles continue to teach, entertain, and resonate. A single glance from Tolkan in a film still conveys authority, tension, or silent judgment. His performances remain a standard, a blueprint for actors seeking to embody command without resorting to excess. James Tolkan's passing is not only the loss of an actor but the close of a chapter in cinematic history. A generation of character acting defined by presence, discipline, and the quiet power to make audiences feel, think, and remember. His work continues to live in the scenes he inhabited, the memories of viewers, and the inspiration of actors who follow in his footsteps. In remembering him, one reflects not just on the roles he played, but on the subtle art of being unforgettable. Tolkan's legacy lies in every tense pause, every authoritative glance, and every moment of silence that spoke volumes. And as viewers revisit his films, They encounter a reminder. Some presences linger long after the curtain falls, shaping the way we see and understand the world on screen. Even as the news settles into history, the question quietly remains: who else will bring such authority, such precision, such enduring authenticity to the screen? And in that lingering curiosity, James Tolkan's memory continues, a force both stern and human, commanding attention and respect for generations yet to come. The world of history and education quietly lost one of its most influential voices, Rodolfo Acuña. His passing leaves a profound silence for those whose lives were shaped by his work. How does one historian leave such a mark on generations? And what does it mean when a scholar becomes more than a teacher, a guiding voice for identity itself? Born with a deep curiosity about the world and a sense of justice, Acuña dedicated his life to uncovering the stories that often went untold. He was not content with history as it had been written by the powerful or privileged. Instead, he sought out the voices that had been silenced, the experiences often ignored, and the truths that were uncomfortable yet necessary. His most celebrated work, Occupied America, became more than a book. It became a movement. Through its pages, Mexican-American history was placed at the center, rather than the margins of educational discourse. Students, teachers, and scholars alike discovered new ways of seeing their communities, their struggles, and their achievements. One student recalled, "Reading his work made me feel seen. For the first time, I understood my family's story was part of something larger." Acuña's impact extended far beyond the classroom. His advocacy for cultural pride, representation, and educational reform resonated across generations. He challenged institutions to recognize the histories they had overlooked and encouraged individuals to take pride in their roots. He often said, "Understanding where we come from is the first step toward knowing who we are." These words were not just academic. They were a call to action, a reminder that history is both personal and collective. Colleagues remembered him as a man of quiet determination and unwavering integrity. He approached scholarship not as a pursuit of fame, but as a responsibility to truth. Fellow historians reflected, "Rudy didn't just write history, he opened doors for others to write their own stories." It was this combination of intellect and heart that made his work resonate so deeply. Acuña also understood the power of visibility. He appeared at conferences, lectures, and community gatherings, often engaging directly with young people. His presence was calming yet commanding, encouraging dialogue, reflection, and critical thinking. One community leader said, "He had a way of making everyone feel important, like their voice mattered." That ability to connect was as important to his legacy as his scholarship. Throughout his life, Acuña remained committed to education as a tool for empowerment. He emphasized that knowledge was not only for understanding the past but for shaping the future. Students who studied his work often carried his lessons into activism, teaching, and public service, applying the principles of justice and awareness he championed. His passing sparked reflections across communities and social media. Tributes poured in, teachers recalling his guidance, students acknowledging the doors he had opened, and scholars praising the courage of his scholarship. One tribute simply read, "He gave us a voice when the world tried to silence us." Another noted, "Rodolfo Acuña showed us that history is not only about facts, it's about dignity, identity, and pride." Even in moments of reflection, his work continues to educate. Classrooms remain filled with his ideas, libraries stocked with his writings, and communities shaped by his advocacy. The impact of a single scholar, thoughtfully applied, extends beyond time and place. Rodolfo Acuña's life reminds us that history is more than dates and events. It is the story of people, of culture, and of identity. His scholarship illuminated paths that had been overlooked and inspired countless individuals to reclaim their heritage and tell their own stories. As the chapter of his life closes, the questions he raised continue to resonate. How can we honor those whose stories have been ignored? How can we ensure that every community has a voice? In answering these questions, we continue the work he began, carrying forward a legacy of knowledge, pride, and justice. Acuña's story does not end with his passing. It lives on in every classroom, every conversation, and every individual empowered to explore their heritage. His legacy is quiet, steady, and enduring, a reminder that true influence is measured not by fame, but by the lives one touches and the voices one amplifies. In remembering Rodolfo Acuna, we are reminded that history belongs to everyone, and that the courage to speak truth shapes the world for generations to come.